Perry.
Please announce yourself.
This is Mary.
Anna Johnson.
Troy Strother.
Angela Craig.
I'm going to stay on mute, guys.
Tony Lombardozzi.
This is Dylan. Anybody else on? This is Dylan.
Yes. Hi, Dylan.
Yes.
It's Angela.
Hey guys. How's it going?
Doing good.
I don't know if it came through, but Tony jumped on as well.
Great. Hey, Tony.
Let's see, we got Dylan. I think I heard Troy. Is that right?
That's correct.
Darlene Jackson.
Hi, Darlene.
Hey.
Hey, Darlene, it's Troy.
Hey, Troy, how are you?
Hi,
Good.
Darlene. Mary.
Hey, Mary. Nice to hear the voice.
Hey, Mary.
Yes.
Let's see. And this is Angela Craig. From a board perspective, it sounds like we have Dylan, Troy, and Mary. Were there any other trustees on the call currently?
Anna
Yes.
Johnson.
I'm sorry. This is Leah Crosby.
Leah, got it.
Hey, Leah.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hey.
Renee Benton.
Hi, Renee.
Hey, Renee.
Hi. I forgot my last name.
You sure did.
That's what happens when you get married.
I hesitated. Oh. How's everybody doing?
I'm fine, yourself.
Good.
I think we're doing good. Yeah, I think we're waiting just a few more minutes as people dial in. Let's see. Amanda, are you
I'm
on
going
the call?
to mute myself.
Okay, so it sounds like we have Dylan, Troy, Mary, Leah. Were there any other trustees that have signed on?
Anna Johnson. I
Anna,
was the
hi,
first
Miss
one. I already
Johnson.
said my name 3 times.
Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Johnson. That's what you get for being more than punctual. Thank you for your time today.
But I will only be here for a while.
Of course. Yeah, I think we scheduled it from 2 to 3. And again, trustees, you may leave as you need to.
Rob Lyko.
Hi, Rob.
Hey. Who am I talking to?
This is
Amanda.
Angela Craig. Oh,
Mhm.
Amanda. Amanda, is that you, Amanda Shin?
Yep, it's Amanda.
All right. Okay. From the trustees side, we have Dylan, Troy, Mary, Leah, and Rob. Sounds like we have Tony, Darlene, Renee, Miss Johnson, and Amanda, and myself.
Perry's been here for a while.
Oh, hey, Perry. You're so quiet. Okay. Gotcha. Trustees, were you all able to take a look at your board packet that we sent out, I believe, on Friday? And there was a capital improvement plan, some slides that Tony always prepares. Were you able to see that? Are you able to look at it for this call?
Yes.
Okay, great. We'll be referencing that.
I'm driving, so I'll just listen in. This is Rob.
We'll just be very descriptive, Rob. No problem.
Okay. On page 58.
Yes, paragraph 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, it looks like it's 2:05, so we can go ahead and get started. That's okay. Sounds like we have Dylan, Troy, Mary, Leah, and Rob. Are there any other trustees on the call? Okay, sounds sounds not. Anyone from the public on the call, we'd like to welcome you if you're available. Okay, I'll take that as a no. Or they're shy. That's okay too. Well, thank you, trustees. We deeply appreciate your time, and thank you for your flexibility as we find different ways to share information during our building process and our other projects that are happening. As you know, COVID has just sort of cut off the way that we're able to usually communicate with you, the trustees. So we didn't want you all to feel disconnected with all the things that are happening. So we just wanted to give you all an opportunity to have a little more time to talk about our building projects and to ask questions, or if we needed to bring up anything on Thursday's board meeting, now would be a good time to talk that through. So that is the purpose, is just to give you all a little more time to digest what's happening with our building projects and anything else related to that. And I'm actually going to turn it over to Tony, and she will give us an overview of where we are.
Great. Thanks, Angela. Can you guys all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, good to chat with you guys, at least, as we're kind of starting to try to get back to normal. Just like Angela said, we wanted to give you guys the opportunity to take in some of the information that we've been moving forward with the building projects. There's a lot, as you guys know, it's a huge project that we're working on. And since we haven't had a board meeting in person in several months, I think January was the last one, it can be difficult over the phone sometimes to ask questions, and I realize we're over the phone now, but at least this will give you guys some chance to kind of hear about just the building projects before we get to the board meeting on Thursday, where we have a pretty full agenda. So we can talk through these things, and then of course I will still be on the call on Thursday and happy to address anything else with the full board there, or if you guys think of any other questions as we're coming, as we come up to that. Yeah, was there something? No. Okay. So I pretty much figured that I would break this down similarly to how I do at the board meeting. So if you guys did get the packet with the slides that I put together that I would usually project, I'm just going to go through each location, and after I finish my update on that one, that specific location, I'll pause and we can kind of talk through anything that you guys might have questions about. That way, you know, we can just, like I said, go through in a little bit more detail and hash out some stuff if you guys have questions or concerns. So I'll start with the regional libraries. As you guys know, we've been working on the design work with those. We are getting really close, actually, to wrapping up the designs. We're working now with a lot of the more detailed trades, like low voltage, exactly where a computer is going to be located, audio visual, what are the auditoriums going to feature as far as, you know, screens and projections and all of that, and furniture selection. So it's actually kind of the fun part. I mean, it's all fun, but this is where it starts really coming together. So we're getting into, like I said, the more technical detail with portions like that. And we expect to have that pretty much wrapped up by the end of June. And then once that work is complete, MBCon is going to be the contractor for the regional libraries, as well as they completed the work on the new facilities. Once we finish the design work, they are going to get us an updated cost estimate. And we're not expecting any surprises on there. We were tracking, you know, about where we thought we would be after the design development phase. So we're feeling pretty good that those will come in about where we're expecting. And then we'll just keep rolling right in. And we did shift a little bit earlier. We're hoping that construction can start as early as late summer on the regional, so possibly in August. The thing that's tricky, as all of you guys are very well aware, is that we're just in a really uncertain situation with the COVID-19 circumstances. So all these dates are very, very tentative at this time. It's basically, you know, as projecting right now. If we continue to work how things are today and there's not another shutdown and, you know, we can kind of get back to, I don't know if I want to use the term business as usual quite yet, but at least as far as the contractors are concerned, looks like we could be starting in August. So we actually had a meeting today with the library staff that will be closely involved in that project to start talking through what some of that will look like, because of course there's a little bit of work that needs to go into the front end on that as far as the library tasks are concerned. So Our LCATS team, who's in charge of the collection, they're going to be going through and preparing the collection. If there's any books that they see while they're going through there that are damaged or anything like that, they'll look into replacing those so that everything's in order when we come back into the building. Our staff is going to pack up all of those materials. We don't want to contract that out. We're a little bit particular about our books and DVDs and all that stuff. So we just want to make sure that it's all packaged the way we like it. The nice thing about doing it that way too is we can keep everything roughly in shelf order. It's easier for our staff to do it. So they will pack everything up, and then we will have professional movers come in and move all of that. So our staff isn't actually going to be doing the physical moving. And those kinds of things will go into storage. We also have a couple facilities that did receive a donation in the past couple of years, and we've gotten new furniture for those. It's some pieces of furniture, specifically in the auditoriums. We were careful to order what is going into our new facilities. So that furniture, of course, we're going to keep it. So same thing as the materials, that'll all be packed up and put into storage. So all of that has to happen before the demolition and construction on the originals can start. So our staff is going to be looking at getting that going over the next couple of months while they're in the buildings and while we're offering different types of services before our patrons start coming in. So in some regards, the timing on that worked out pretty well. Ultimately, we're going to be looking at doing 3 regionals in the first round, and then once construction is complete on those, we will move to the remaining 2. We don't have a construction timeline yet, of course, because the contractor isn't at that stage yet, but we're predicting probably about 10 months that each of the regionals will have to be closed to complete the construction process. I think that's pretty much everything that I have on the regionals right now. So do you guys have any questions about those?
Yes, this is Leah. With
Hey, Leah.
3, hi, which 3 branches are going to be done first?
So tentatively, and I'm saying it that way because depending on how permitting shakes out, if we get caught in a situation where one location is taking a really long time to get a permit, or if there's any issues or anything like that, we don't want to hold up the whole process. But the tentative plan right now is that Otranto, Johns Island, and Heard St. Andrews will be the first 3 that will be renovated.
Great, thank you.
And again, that's tentative. So that could still change depending on the construction climate and everything.
Okay. And then just for my record, and the other 2 are going to be?
Which other 2? So it would be Mount Pleasant and Dorchester are the remaining 2 regionals.
Gotcha.
And those would close once the others are back up and running.
Okay. Thanks, Tony.
Yep. Any other questions on the regionals? No, you guys are very quiet today. Rob's paying close attention to the road. That's good. All right.
It's mountain roads. I got to stay on the pavement.
Okay. All right, definitely. Keep the eyes on the road then. Okay, so now I'll move on to the Cooper River branch and what we have going on there. So I believe when we last talked, we had talked about looking at some temporary space and possibly getting some modular type buildings off site from where the existing library is, but not too far away. We got costs back on those, and it's pricey. Well, I'll be completely honest. Angela and I, when we saw the numbers, we were like, ooh, that's a big chunk of change. And originally, we were talking about possibly having that money come out of operations, either from the library or from the county side, because it can't be paid from the referendum because of the type of usage. However, COVID-19 happened, and as you guys can imagine, the budgets have gotten a lot smaller and a lot tighter. So right now what we are working on, and Angela is working very diligently on this, I know she's setting up a lot of meetings with a lot of different people, is looking at the potential if there is some free or donated space near the library that either Charleston County might have, or the city of North Charleston, or even a private entity that would be willing to work with us on getting some space either for free or very, very, very low cost, so that we can look at what type of service we'll be able to continue in that area. Because as you guys know, now part of the project scope is going to include keeping the original section of the Cooper River Memorial Library. So if you guys are familiar with the building, there's, it's essentially a big square, but there's a smaller central square that was the original piece of the building that was built in the late 30s. And then in the 60s or 70s, I believe, they added the two extra little side pieces. So those two side pieces are going to come down, but that original core of the building needs to remain. So we don't have any design plans on what that's going to look like yet, but it's going to be incorporated into the new library somehow. So what that ultimately means is that that building itself cannot remain open during construction. It's just not possible. So to make sure that we're continuing some type of service in the area, that's what Angela is looking into right now and working with the county to figure out what that's going to look like. We have talked about different options. We know that the biggest need in that community is for digital resources as far as coming in and using technology. So it's really, really important that they have an area where they can come in and use computers, whether it's workforce development or even something as simple that we all take for granted as just checking email. So we want to make sure that we figure out a way to best continue to provide that.
Tony,
yes.
What's the square footage that you're searching for? What type of space?
Angela could speak to that better, but we're actually pretty flexible on it. The existing library is 6,000 square feet, but we do not feel like we need to maintain that at that level to still be able to offer a good service. We feel like we could go even as small as about 3,000 square feet and still maintain it. But I would say, and Angela can chime in here too, really nothing is off the table. We would consider anything that we can look at.
Okay.
And trustees, what we did is we did an assessment of the Cooper River community, just like we did with West Ashley. What is it that the patrons are using predominantly? And if we had to look at a modified building or a smaller building, what are the things that kind of rise to the top? And for that community, it is definitely technology access, computer access in particular. So we are looking at a space where we could have a computer lab where it could be workforce development, educational success, or just like Tony said, just being able to come in and check your social media or email or watch a video, whatever you want to do, and have the access that you need. That community also loves to check out DVDs, so we would love to have a spot for a small collection, predominantly DVD focused, because we know that streaming options are very limited in that corridor and that DVDs are very, very popular with our patrons. We would love to have a space for Holds Pickup too, if we could, because we know that patrons also love to bring in materials that aren't on hand at the branch. And if our branch is smaller, then having a Holds Pickup would be nice, because we would have limited space for shelving. But like Tony said, we're very flexible. We're going to need to be, just because we're going to be looking at free or donated space where we could have a library presence.
This is Leah. Have you guys been in touch with Metanoia in terms of just thinking creatively? Maybe not using their space. I know it's not exactly in the same location, but it's close by. But they might be able to store some things if you are using multiple sites, some for storage and some for patron service. Do you know about that organization?
I'm not familiar with that, Leah. Would you mind sending me a link, or you and I could talk offline? I would love to talk through the option. We're putting together a list of potential community partners, too, that might be a good fit, that could give us a temporary home. County is amenable to that. We would need to have an MOU if we went to a different site such as that, but we're open to wherever we need to go so that we can make sure we have access for our patrons.
Okay, absolutely. I'll share some information with you.
Thank you. That'd be wonderful.
on the line of that, Angela, and Leah will share it with you, they're also renovating a school in that area, Metanoia, for child care. That would be a perfect facility that I know that they would certainly have some extra space to be able to use for that. So just look into that. But the other thing I wanted to say is that it's imperative, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, that there are still services. I don't know what your research came back as, but that area, workforce development, is going to be huge. Like you said, using the computers, that there is a seamless transition from one city to whatever place that you use, that happens seamlessly, that there's no closure.
Thank you so much. I actually had a... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was just on the phone talking to one of the council members asking about this thing. So in reference to the Cooper River and having a suggestive alternative site, what about using part of the Navy Hospital? We have 10 acres on the back of that. And so you could, put a trailer there.
We did, yes, Ms. Johnson, we did talk about that with Tim, and that's still on the table, as long as I think construction isn't impeded by our presence there. I think that's what they're trying to figure out.
The whole 10 acres, it shouldn't be.
I'm hoping not, yeah, and I would love to talk through those options too. As Tony said, the modular spaces that we were looking at are a little pricier than we thought they would be, and so our price point has changed also because of COVID. So we're looking at different options. Right now, we're hoping we can look through a partnered space or free or donated space so that we could be cost conscious during this process.
Okay.
But thank you for checking. Did anyone else have any questions about the RQ Summy update?
I have a question. This is Dylan. My question isn't about the temporary space. It's more about the big picture. So if I understand correctly, the location is locked in. We're going to use a portion of the facade of the existing building. And the question is, what's the footprint of that new building going to be? Do we have, are we dependent on the timeline of the county in developing the larger development plan for this Shipwatch corridor, or can we go ahead and get plans made using that existing facade and build out as far as the timeline goes?
Hey, Dylan, that's a really great question. So there's kind of a couple parts to the answer. So while we are locked in to a space which is going to encompass that existing piece of the Cooper River Library and then another section of the building, one thing that has not been completely worked out yet in the master plan, which I have not seen, so this is just me stating this from hearing it from others, is parking. And how that's all going to work, and is it going to be shared between some of the facilities? Will the library have their own parking? The county knows how much parking we need, so if it's a shared type of thing, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're only going to, be stuck with like 10 spaces again. But figuring out access to and from the site and sort of that logistical piece, it is critical before we can start on the design of our actual building footprint. So they are finishing that up, is my understanding. That was the last update that Angela and I got last week from the county team. Hopefully that will be done within the next couple of months, and then we can start working on the design portion for our specific library while they hash out the details on everything else that's going to be on the property and what all the other buildings are going to look like. Different architecture teams working on those that have nothing to do with the library. So it's kind of a chicken and egg kind of deal at this point. So we do have to wait a little bit longer until certain things are hashed out so that we can jump in and work on our portion. And then also to speak a little bit more about the building footprint, one thing that is going to happen because we are annexing, and I'll kind of put that in air quotes, a portion of the existing Cooper River Library that is being added to the square footage. So instead of having a 15,000 square foot building, it's going to be closer to 19,000 square feet. So it'll be a little bit closer to like the James Island branch that just opened this fall.
I think that's a good assessment of our situation with the council.
Oh, good. Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Yeah. Yes, and Tony and I had a great conversation with Walt about just some possibilities that we would have with the additional square footage, how we could program it. And I brought up our favorite thing, which is having a kitchen there, since the area is a food desert, and kind of talking through how we could rethink and make it work for county from a safety and risk standpoint. So we're still working through what that could potentially look like, but Tony and I were talking through about how if we were to go for a kitchen, it would be in the vein of what our maker spaces are like. And there is a wonderful kitchen that I'm happy to send a link to the trustees from the Austin Public Library at their central location, and that's what I was talking about. I sent it to Walt and to Tim, where that is sort of a rollout island that has the capacity to do limited kitchen functions, and then when we're not using it, we roll it back and open up some more floor space. So as I understand in talking through with exec team and other staff members, and I would love to hear from the trustees, the kitchen is still something that I think we would like to explore, and with the additional square footage, I think it's something that opens up some possibilities for us. So as long as we are in alignment with the safety and risk factor with county, I think we have some opportunities there that we didn't have before when the building was 15,000 square feet. Is that fair to say, Tony?
Yes, absolutely. I would agree. All right. Any other questions on North Charleston? Nope. All right. We'll keep moving on then.
Moving right along. There we go.
So the next big one that we're working on right now, as you guys know, is Bees Ferry. I was super excited because I finally got to go back out to the job site last week. I was kind of joking around with our contractors. I was like, I feel like I sent a kid off to boarding school and they came back and they're all grown up now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened? But the building looks really, really great. I'm really happy with the way it has turned out. It was a really stunning design. When you come into the building, you guys will see it's beautiful. You come in kind of a smaller hallway space, kind of lobby area, and then it just opens up with all this glass and a high ceiling, and it's very, very lovely. Half of the furniture is in, half of it's still going to be rolling in over the summer. June and July is expected for the dates for delivery for furniture. The shelving is in. It gives you a pretty good idea of what the building is going to look like and feel like once the collection gets in there. So what we're working with on this building has been the delays basically as a result of COVID-19. So, construction-wise, we've actually been moving along pretty well. The only contractor that we had an issue with was our audiovisual installation. They were off the job for, I believe it was 6 or 7 weeks. And they just came back on, and they're great. We've worked with them on all of the projects so far, and they're working really hard to get everything caught up and installed for their portion. Of course, that hasn't really affected the grand scheme of things because our furniture was very delayed. Like I just said, a lot of it's not going to be coming in until June, and some of it even in July. So realistically, trying to get the building open, obviously we need to wait for all of that kind of stuff to come in. Another critical component to this, as you guys know, is our opening day collection. That's all of the new books and materials that we receive. Our LCATS team has been working on that as one of their vendors was shut down for coronavirus. And we are looking at taking receipt and delivery of those materials in August. So we're hoping that we'll be able to kind of have staff sort of roll in staggered shifts, I guess I could say, in the building, because we're going to have to be practicing social distancing once we get in there to get all of that final work done. So getting the maker space set up and getting the collection on the shelves and running everything through the sorter to make sure everything is coded properly Normally that's a lot of teamwork where people are working very closely together. As you guys know, business practices have changed, so we're looking at how we can do that safely, and obviously that's just going to take a little bit longer. But we are really excited to get that branch open, and we are shooting for an opening this fall. And I put the word opening in quotations as well. You know, what that actually looks like, we won't know. You know, maybe it'll be a virtual opening like what we're going to do with St. Paul's. Maybe it'll still be curbside service. But I will say opening meaning offering some type of service to the public out of that location this fall. I think that's about everything for Beast Ferry. Did you guys have any questions on that one? Nope. All right. Keep moving on then. So St. Paul's, I guess, would be the next one. While we have been closed, the contractors have been in there finishing up some of the last punch list items, and now we have staff that are getting back into the buildings in the past week, and they've started to remobilize, and they've let me know of a few things that needed to be corrected and adjusted. We had no water pressure in the kitchen, for example, so our contractor has been coming back and fixing those kinds of things. I know that our IT team has been out there last week and this week, and they are working on getting all of the computers hooked up for staff and public usage once we do reopen. And once we start back with our operations, what that's going to look like, we want to bring St. Paul's on at the same time. So what we want to offer is a virtual ribbon cutting event, essentially, and Angela would be able to talk more to the details on that if you guys have any questions about it. But that will at least let the public know that we are really, really excited about this facility. We just can't safely offer an in-person event at this time, but we hope to have a big celebration once it's safe to do that. Let me think.
I'm happy to talk a little bit more about that.
Oh, go ahead, yeah.
Actually, Ms. Johnson and I was talking about this very thing. Ms. Johnson and Melanie, our board chair, and myself and I, we are hoping that we can get out next week to the building where we could actually physically cut the ribbon. We feel confident that the three of us could socially distance and get the footage for that. So I know that it's just going to look a little bit differently than what we have in our previous openings, and we are committed to, once we are able to have a celebration as we have had in the past with our other buildings, we will certainly do that for Hollywood. But we did not want to delay, as Tony said, having a functional building up for our public, particularly when we know that it has wonderful Wi-Fi access and it allows for more square footage for our quarantine process and things like that as we're working through that. So I think some board members just wanted to make sure that we didn't forget about Hollywood. We will not forget about Hollywood. We're doing our virtual ribbon cutting. It is basically a placeholder so that we can open the building functionally to the public, and then when we can have a celebration, we will certainly have that at a later time.
I think that's a great idea, and an open house kind of function when you're finally ready. I think that's a great idea. Let the people use the services.
Absolutely, yes. And I will say Hollywood came at a great time for COVID because the Wi-Fi was wonderful out there. I think it was much better than the original building. It stretched out almost to the pool. Darlene, are you still on the call?
I am here.
Excellent. Darlene had the Hollywood staff test the Wi-Fi, and Darlene, I think they said that it went pretty far out around the building. Is that right?
It certainly did. It went all the way to the town hall. So actually, if someone was sitting in the town hall parking lot, they would have been able to access the Wi-Fi, which is awesome.
That is, yes. It was very, very timely. We were glad that we were able to at least use the Wi-Fi, even though we couldn't have the building open. And we're looking forward very much to having the building be part of our curbside service and eventual in-person service when we get to that point.
Well, I'd like to say I'm excited about the opening myself, and certainly appreciate everything that the staff has done to make the Wi-Fi available more to the public.
Absolutely.
This is Leah. So do you have a date for the virtual ribbon cutting yet?
We were looking, I was just talking to Ms. Johnson about it. We need to record our footage, which would be on next Wednesday, and then we would release it on social media on the weekend. Since we're doing our curbside service on June 8th, we don't want to release it to the public too early because we don't want the public to get confused that we've had a ribbon cutting and now the building is open physically to the public. We want to make it clear that it's part of our curbside service. So that's why we're delaying it almost to where our curbside service date is.
Gotcha. I am super looking forward to seeing all of your smiling faces and that beautiful building and the whole virtual event, because you're also going to give it like a little tour of the inside, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Tony
good.
is, I believe. Tony, are you doing the virtual tour? And then was Becca also going to be part of the virtual tour?
Yes, so you'll see my shining face, maybe with a mask. I don't know. I'll try to do it without one. I feel so weird because I smile a lot, and then I'm looking at people. I'm like, you can't tell that I'm smiling with a mask on. But anyway, so I'll be on there, and I believe Becca will be as well. But we're heading out on Friday of this week, actually, to do some recording and get all of that in place. So there will be a little sneak peek. I mean, it's kind of totally like a tease for everybody, but hopefully it'll make some people smile and get excited for when we can open.
Well, I want y'all to know I'm very excited. I have been visiting over there and just in the parking lot every chance I can. And so I was over there Saturday in Hollywood, and I had to go and park in the parking lot just to see it.
Yeah, I can't wait until it's in the mix. It's a beautiful building. Were there any further questions about the Hollywood St. Paul location? Mary, did you have any questions?
No. You answered, because my question was going to be, when do you think you were going to have the virtual? But that's fine.
Yeah, we will. When we confirm the date, we'll send it to the trustees and to the public, and it will be online through our social media and on our website too, I believe. And so people can dial in, and we'll have it recorded too, so people can access it later. Okay. I think we're on to the next slide, which is Baxter Patrick and Wanda.
Yeah. If you guys are following along in the slide, there's not really much to say about Baxter Patrick and Wando. We're working on closing them out. Again, this was actually a really nice time. We kind of sent the contractors back out to both buildings while we were closed to tweak a few things, especially over at James Island, where staff have now been in there for a few months. And we were like, hey, this would actually kind of be a little bit better if we moved this desk over here, or moved these floor boxes. So that was actually a nice opportunity to have the contractors be able to do that. Excuse me. So they've kind of been wrapping through that, and we're working on the closeout process on those as we have been. It takes a while. Any questions on those?
Well, I don't have any questions, but I do want to share with you that on Sunday I went to the graveyard at Evergreen, and another community friend and I, we put some flags out over there for Memorial Day, and also at the sign at the front of the road to acknowledge that we wanted to pay some homage to those that were buried in the graveyard.
Oh, that's lovely.
I'll be taking that down late today or tomorrow, those flags.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Okay.
But I know the community appreciates it.
Yes.
All right. Then the last update for you guys as far as our buildings are concerned is our support services facility. So we are getting really close on that one as well. Similar kind of situation with COVID-19 that put a snag in when we were getting our furniture, and a couple of small things that you think are really insignificant but end up not being so insignificant at the end of the project. One of those being an air grill that needs to be put into one of the conference rooms. It ended up on back order, and then because of coronavirus got delayed even further. and that one air grill is holding up our final certificate of occupancy right now. Excuse me, I apologize. So that, I'll put it in quotes, insignificant item has turned rather significant, but that is supposed to arrive next week. They'll get that installed, finish up the ceiling in that area, and then we'll have our final certificate of occupancy after that point. We do have the keys to the facility, so CCPL staff has been going over there. Our IT team has been getting the space ready so that the server and everything is up and ready in there. It's a huge undertaking to move your brain of your operation. I'm not a tech person at all, as you guys know, so I just know that it's been many, many hours of trying to coordinate all of that. So that is wrapping up, getting close to finishing, and then we are expecting that the rest of our furniture should arrive in mid-June, and that's going to take a couple of days to install. And once that's wrapped up, I'll go through the building, do a final, kind of look over, make sure that we have everything that we were supposed to, since the end kind of got a little bit piecemeal with things coming in. And then we are hoping to move in July. And that will be pretty exciting. We'll be getting our administrative staff out of Maine and over into the new building. It looks great. It's bright. It's cheery, lots of bright colors. The furniture that is in there so far looks awesome. The design team, I really have to give them very high praise. They did a really, really great job. If you guys saw the before pictures, that building was pretty rugged. So what they've turned it into is really nice. And I was out there last week, took a spin all the way around the whole perimeter of the building, and it's beautiful. We have the best building in the neighborhood now. It's snazzy. It's bright white. It has yellow accents. I think it's going to be a really nice place for our staff to move to. Trying to think if there's anything on that. Oh, the AMH, the big sorter that we have in that facility, is also installed. There's a small component that will enhance our operations even further that will need to be installed in person by one of LinkSo's staff. And obviously they can't travel right now. He's based out of Las Vegas, so it's going to be a little bit of time before he can make it out here to do that. But the system is fully operational, so that's kind of just a bonus that we're waiting on, so that'll be really great when we have that. But we're pretty much ready to go as soon as the furniture comes in. Any questions on that one?
I don't have a question on that one, although I do believe the building is beautiful from what I've seen, the visits I've had over there. I like the way it's coming along. I have a question about Baxter Patrick, the portraits. Have you all gotten the name tags yet, or know when that's coming in? For the
good question. Very, very good question, Ms. Johnson. I was told 2 months ago that we were supposed to have that last run of signage, and that was in March. And then everything kind of fell apart with coronavirus. And now I have been told that we're supposed to have it in June. So I am really, really, really hoping that it actually comes through this time. It is the same signage vendor that is doing all of the other signs. So I'm not sure what happened with that, but there's that sign, and then there's also a handful of other signs that are actually missing from the building that we need to have installed as well. So hopefully that will be here in the next month or so.
Hopefully, because they are taking a long time on that.
It is. It's ridiculous. It's something that we've been asking for since before we officially opened the building.
And I think they were supposed to be doing something with the floral, what is that, the monument called the Reef that's on the outside of the building.
Oh, the art piece. Yes, that's also getting a formal sign on it as well. And it's in that same run of signage that we're waiting on.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Anything else on any? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I would like to talk a little bit about the West Ashley branch that is currently open, and just kind of give the trustees an update on where we are with community feedback and flooding, and just sort of where we are with that location. I've been in contact with Mr. Moody quite often, and he has certainly taken an interest because, as I'm sure you all know, that the community loves the branch, and we love it to stay right where it is. So where we landed before COVID, and we're still right there, is that we are waiting to see how the flood mitigation with the city of Charleston handles right now. We're going to know soon enough whenever the hurricane season comes and how the flood mitigation works in that area. It's not just our building that is affected. As you know, there's a lot of other buildings and homes that are affected, and so the City of Charleston has said that they are aware of it and that they are working to amend it. So we agreed, county council and CCPL, that we just wanted to see what happened, and if there is an improvement, then we can make a decision from there, and if there's not an improvement, if the building is still flooding, then we can revisit what needs to happen. So nothing has changed in the fact that we are hopeful that the flood mitigations do work as the City of Charleston says they will, and that we'll be able to make a decision on how that renovation will play out based on that.
Thank you, Angela, because that was going to be my other question. So I appreciate that update.
Oh, no problem. And I know, I'm sorry, it's very much hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait. We did have a little bit of flooding in that storm that happened, I think it was last week, where, there was the tornado warning, and then there was hail, and there was a little bit of flooding on the exterior of the building, and we weren't able to put sandbags down because it just happened so quickly, and we just didn't feel it was safe for anyone to put sandbags down and things like that, just shelter in place. So there was a little bit of interior flooding, and there was exterior flooding, and we have photos. That's also been very helpful. We've been working on documenting how the flooding is affecting access, and through photos and just how the staff is able to watch that as well. So we're being diligent in making sure we're consistent with our information and how it affects public access.
Great, thank you.
Were there any further questions that he's had for us at this time? Okay. I hope this was helpful, and if this is helpful, we're happy to revisit having something similar like this in the future. And again, we will be covering our building project same as always this Thursday, but we just wanted to have the opportunity to spend a little more time on it since there hasn't been a chance to have an in-person meeting, and there's been significant updates in the last couple of months due to COVID and how our timeline is shaping up too.
I appreciate it, Angela. Very good. Thank you very much. And I would be willing to have another one of these, something similar to this, as an update. It was good. Thank you.
I do agree.
Thank you,
that,
Troy.
Yeah, got a lot of information.
It is a lot of information. This is a very weighty topic, we know. And so, again, thank you for your patience as we try to find the best way to communicate this to the trustees. We know that we send so many emails your way, and then we hopefully get to meet at least once a month in person, but that hasn't been, happening due to COVID. So we're hoping video conference, teleconference works, and that we can continue to communicate with you all so that you feel in touch with what's happening.
Excellent job. Thank you very much. Does anyone know what the county or state guidelines are for allowing boards like ours to get together? Has there been any as far as in-person meetings? I
think, now, Ms. Johnson, the county council is not meeting in person. Is that right? Are you still doing video conferences?
We'll have a meeting on Thursday.
Will you be in person on Thursday?
On Thursday.
Okay.
As far as I know, it's going to be on Thursday. In person.
Okay, in person.
At least I'm supposed to be there in person.
Okay. Yeah, Rob, I'm hoping for an in-person meeting in June, just because I think we're getting to that point where we can have groups gather, and as long as we can socially distance, it might change where we are able to have our board meetings, where we can spread out a little bit more. I know that, and Ms. Johnson, keep me honest, County Council is opening to the public, but they're limiting how many people can come, and they're just being very clear that you have to adhere to the social distance. So I think, Rob, as long as we're able to adhere to the social distancing protocols, we can definitely look at having an in-person board meeting. It will just probably limit how many people from the outside, other than the board, that are able to come into the meeting.
Yeah, even if, like at Maine, in that room, setting up the table, setting up the chairs in the room lengthwise, and we can spread out a little bit further, maybe. I don't know. But that's good. Thank you.
I will tell you that with the county council, they have made some changes inside, as to how we're going to sit the council members. So they will have, 2 rows, and they have, as far as the audience is concerned, they have blocked off, I think, 3 seatings in between, enough to get 4 to 6, feet apart. So I think you should be able to do that in your in the library space. Certainly the main library, you should be able to, separate us. Where if you did have to have two tables set up, that you'd be able to have that 4 feet space in there.
Push comes to shove, we could walk down the block and hold it at Marion Square out in the open air.
All are welcome. I'm looking at our next board meeting. It is set for June 25th at Dorchester Regional Library. It probably will not take place at Dorchester because that won't be enough room to socially distance. Right. But we will find an option for social distancing, and we will communicate that with the trustees.
Angela,
Great.
I have the main library's auditorium also booked for all of the board meeting dates, just in case a thing like this came up. So.
Okay.
Great.
Well, Amanda, aren't you just awesome? How did you know that COVID would be affecting us?
I don't know.
Wow, you're good. Okay, so
I don't know. It sounds
like
a
we do.
Conspiracy theory to me.
Right. Amanda had the intel. So then, yes, I agree that Maine would be a logical option, and we should know soon what our capacity is. As we can all see, things are slowly opening up. The county government buildings are back to their normal hours, and we're going to run with our curbside service starting June 8th. But even if we are doing curbside service at the end of June, we can still look at having an in-person meeting, particularly if we feel from a health and safety standpoint that's a good fit.
Right, and Angela, I just wanted to remind everyone that we're using the auditorium to quarantine our materials. So at Maine, well, actually at all the locations. So if we need more space, I think the only space that we have available would be out at Wando, because they're not utilizing both sides of the auditorium. But at Maine, we're utilizing the space for quarantine. So hopefully quarantine materials. But who knows? Maybe by then this would have passed, which would be a nice thing.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you, Darlene.
Might
I'll get
not
in
be
contact
quarantined.
with
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay. I think we just put a hold on several options, and then we find which one works for our purposes.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you, Darlene. I did forget that we were quarantining materials. But yes, that's definitely affecting access. Okay. Was there any other questions from the trustees about our building projects or anything that we need to bring on the agenda on Thursday? Okay. It sounds like we are up to speed as much as we can be right now, but thank you all again for tuning in and coming with your questions. And again, we will continue to communicate. I think Tony said it best that we are tentatively planning several things based on our access and how COVID allows us to move forward. So thank you so much for your support and flexibility and understanding as we navigate this process.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Great. We will see you all on Thursday for our video conference. Thank you so much.
You take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Angela, have an email.